Hello and welcome to the first episode of Series 3 of Child in Time, Growing Up in the 60s. Welcome back, all my regular listeners, and if you're new here, it's great to have you. Okay, so here we go. Give me a head with hair. Long, beautiful hair, shining, gleaming, streaming, flaxen, waxen. Give me down to there, hair, shoulder length or longer, hair. Here, baby, there, mama, everywhere, daddy, daddy, hair, hair, hair. Grow it, show it, long as you can grow it, my hair. That's a song, surprisingly called Hair, from the musical, the 60s, Hair. And that's what we're talking about today. From the mid-1960s onwards, the young and some not so young men grew their hair. It was the fashion, often seen as an act in defiance of the status quo. It was the emergence of the hippie era, and suburban kids like me could feel like we were grown up and cool by the simple act of not going to the barber. It went with our music and fashion. And as we were the boomers, there were a lot of us. Many parents, particularly fathers, hated the long hair trend with a vengeance. "You look like a girl," was the common catchphrase of many dads. My father, a very straight-laced and conservative man, if ever there was one, would tell me I looked like a Sheila. Sheila is an outdated Australian colloquialism for a female. Old photographs of me from that time depict a teenage boy with long hair, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't look remotely like any female I've ever seen. You often heard the phrase, dirty long hair, said derisively about our luxuriously long locks, though I never saw any guy with actual dirty hair. Many older folks looked at long-haired youth with disdain, associating it with a lack of respect, a harbinger of a significant change in society, and also laziness, just letting your hair grow. It was a potent signal that you are part of the hippie subculture with all its associated anti-establishment mores like way-out music. Music? It's just noise, they'd say. Well, we had gone from "How much is that dog in the window" in the 1950s to the Beatles singing "I Am the Walrus" in 1967. Having long hair was also associated with taking mind-altering drugs while wearing lots of denim and cheesecloth. In a broader cultural landscape, and I'm talking here about the USA in particular, having long hair meant you were definitely not in the military. There was a huge anti-war movement against the Vietnam War. The unpopular war waged through most of the 1960s and beyond. So having hair down to your shoulders was as far away from a military hairstyle as you could get. Not all jean-clad, tie-dyed, shirt-wearing, long-haired youths were dirty, lazy, drug-addict, anti-war reactionaries, though. No, most guys I knew were just suburban kids following the fashion. I always knew, even though I might have looked the part, deep down I was just a suburban boy. I did not want to change society. I just wanted to borrow my dad's car on Saturday night. Our high school class photographs of 1971 and 1972 show just how pervasive long hair had become. with the exception of maybe one or two. Every guy has long hair, often shoulder length. Mine was. And it didn't matter if long hair did not suit you at all. And many boys just let it grow and continued to part their hair on the side as they always did, because old habits die hard. My hair was very straight and fine, and for a while I resorted to using a hairspray specifically marketed to males lest their hair fall over their eyes all the time. Because I went to a public high school, there was no policy on hair length. One skinny lad had a large afro hairstyle. Viewed from a distance, he looked a bit like a microphone if he was standing up. As the eldest, and always the first out of the trenches when it came to challenging my father, the fact he disliked my hairstyle, music and clothing didn't really bother me because kids like me were everywhere. If I had had a short back and sides haircut, I wouldn't have fitted in or even possibly be viewed with some derision. And in the midst of all this, there was a trend at my school to dye your long locks blonde. I had to be in on this too, but I couldn't all of a sudden just walk in the kitchen one day with blonde hair. There was this product called Sun-In. You sprayed this stuff on your hair and let it dry in the sun. It took about 2 weeks of applying it like that every day to go properly blonde. About halfway through this process, my father noticed a change and asked why my hair was turning red. Red. Anyway, about 3 months later, half the guys at school had long, dark roots as the coloured blonde hair grew out, and we all couldn't be bothered dyeing it again. Having blonde hair did not seem to alter the almost total lack of interest our female classmates had in us. Many of the girls in my year I had known since we were 5 years old, so you certainly weren't not in any way mysterious or exotic to them. Yeah, there were a few romances, however, between classmates in the later years of high school. Yeah. Me. My romances. Let me count. There was none. But having long hair was not without its risks. There was a teenage subculture of youths of the same age called the Sharpies, or the Sharps. They had some similarities with the skinhead movement in the UK at the time, but really only in the way they dressed. The Sharps had short cropped hair, sometimes with a mullet, and emerged from the outer working class suburbs of Sydney and Melbourne. Now, I'm sure there were some nice Sharpies, but the particular Sharps who caused concern were the vicious thugs who had adopted a hobby of beating up guys who happened to have long hair. If you're walking along the street and a lone Sharpie was coming towards you, though, you were safe. The Sharps only attacked when in a group. Say, 6 Sharps versus 2 long hairs was a fair fight to them. My mates and I, we'd heard about these beatings and we were, well, shall I say, aware. One Saturday night, 3 of us caught a train into the centre of Sydney and walked up the stairs from the underground stop at the town hall to set foot on George Street, right in the centre of Sydney's CBD. After taking a step or two, I heard a shout of, "Let's get 'em!" I turned and looked over my right shoulder to see maybe 6 Sharpies advancing towards us from about 40 metres away. I knew instantly that this was the moment. This was going to be a literal clash of cultures. Their eyes were laser focused on us. We were their prey as they advanced. The three of us stood fiercely upright and faced them, shoulder to shoulder. My hands were tense by my sides, and I could feel the palm sweat as I opened and closed my fists. This was it. No, that's not what happened. The truth is, the moment we heard the "let's get 'em" battle cry, we sprinted in the opposite direction. I think that had my sprint have been timed, my adrenaline was such I would have set a new record for the 100 metres for my age group. And mere seconds later, I would have set a new benchmark for the 200 metres, then the 400. I'll never know how far they chased us, or even if they bothered to chase us at all, whether they just wanted to scare us. Well, they certainly did that. Some months later, a friend was beaten up by sharps, quite badly too. The group of sharps beat him up because he was walking along and had long hair. I was not present that night in the city. Anyway, the Sharpie subculture faded away, but long-haired males of all ages are still very much in evidence. I kept my hair long until the mid-70s. I had to cut it in order to look suitable when I secured a job as waitstaff in a very posh restaurant. I never let it grow long again. I suppose having long hair in the 60s was all a bit like how nowadays so many guys, and girls too, have tattoos as a fashion thing. The main difference, though, is that long hair was temporary, even more so once male pattern baldness made entirely sure that I will never again have my hair fall over my eyes, or over anything really. These are the bold facts. Thanks for listening. It's great to be back. We're into our third year now. Please, if you can, tell just one other person about the podcast if you enjoyed it. And we'll talk soon. Bye.